somebody at IDLA if you have access to those courses anyway. So
Right, right.
you can play around in there. Okay, so now, so once I have them click on the edit course, we go back into their course outline where we spent some time yesterday, and I refresh their objectives and refresh that that's how we got them in there, and now we start working in the course outline a little bit. The first thing that I point out is the recycle bin, and if you click on the recycle bin, you can restore items that you've deleted from this course. So I tell them that nothing's really broken, and even if they can't find it, Michael can usually retrieve it using the DLAP function. So, and I'm assuming he showed you how to do that. So if you get rid of whole folders and you want an item within that folder, you have to restore the whole folder, but I usually just restore one item for them. And I click on that, and I click yes, and then it shows up with a green line across it, and then that item is restored in their course. So I show them recycle bin, and I also show them the help feature. Because of the fact that we don't train with everything, it would just take so much time to go into every detail with the teachers. So I showed them the help feature. And did Michael spend any time with this yesterday, or when he trained you?
Not, well, he referred to a couple pages, but not directly.
Okay, so I take teachers in here. I just take teachers in here, and we refer to it specifically when we're talking about the advanced edit mode when they're doing building tests, because that's a little bit higher level tech than most of our teachers are willing to attempt. So we have them just go in and search a couple of things and then tell them to print that advanced edit out. And so you can see this from the teacher, from an authoring perspective, from a student guide, and the administrator guide. So tons and tons of information in here. And again, I just tell teachers that they can print out things for further reference, but we do spend some time with the help button. Okay, so the first item that we have them do hands-on is to look at the course settings, and this is where I have them change the name of their course, and so they change it from Master in Development. I have them change it to a topic, so they might put in science or algebra or whatever. And they can put a description of the course in there. They can put a term. Sometimes they'll put like the time of the year, spring or fall. We don't teach them anything about the export course button unless they got later on in the course and wanted to attempt that. But the scheduling, it's important to know that if you don't click traditional scheduling, that you won't get the scheduling tab in the course syllabus. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. If you click continuous enrollment, it's like an open enrollment course, and so kids can just come and go like a flex recovery sort of thing, and there just really isn't a start date or an end date, and the kids are working independently. And so we use that for masters, but when we're building like a master template, but especially for the enroll copy, we make sure they have traditional scheduling, so that, and those dates are far enough out so that they don't get that tab shut out of their course. So once they click done, that the name of the name of the course changes, and then I bring them back in and I let them see what they can do for the gradebook. And these are just global settings for the gradebook. Once we're in the gradebook, we can do some more settings, but these are some global settings. Do you remember yesterday when I said you can set that threshold for the red, green, and yellow buttons? This is where you would do that. And you have to have objectives in there before you can set this threshold, or this button doesn't appear. And so now Brain Honey by default puts in period 1, 2, 3, and 4, and none of us can figure out why, because it doesn't work well with the grade book. So we set up first quarter, And that's the one that I pointed out in Jenica's course where it said her first quarter grade book and it had all of the assignments and grades for her first quarter. So this is where I tell teachers to change it to first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And if you guys can figure out what these numbers mean, Michael doesn't know what they mean, and he couldn't get a clear answer. So I'm going to give a prize. Anyway, they don't seem to have any bearing on anything that we do on our training, and he really doesn't know what those are for. So if somebody comes up with an answer, that would be awesome. They can change their grade scales in here, and I just have them double click, and some of them make changes here if they have a different scale for their district, but otherwise they're just looking in here to see that option is in there. Usually this part plays in plays a bigger role when they're getting ready to roll out and they have all of their stuff built, and then they say, okay, now how do I want this to look? How do I want this to act in my grade book? So they kind of forget about this, and we usually revisit this in a one-on-one session or a help session with a teacher. The course grade scale, of course, they can alter that for the plus and minus, pass, fail, and whether or not they want to display their course grade as a percentage, points or minutes spent, and it's points by default. We don't mess with these settings over here on the right. When we have a teacher who wants to do formative assessment, when they want to do some differentiation and some pre-testing, we go in with that and do one-on-one sessions. Spent a lot of time with a teacher last spring further up north in the state, and just showed him how to do this, and man, when he took off, he just built the coolest science classes, and kids were testing out of objectives. He would set the bar really high, and he just built them their own pathways, and it was really phenomenal. But in general, we don't mess with this setting in a day 1 or day 2 training. We just tell them that when they get to that point, this is where they change those numbers. These numbers are set to IDLA defaults for our flex courses. They had to have, out of the 5 objectives that we had in there, they had to have, or 6 out of the 9 objectives they had to have correct. And so these are numbers that we set for IDLA, but you can fix those. The same with the remediation, and they usually just set those up after a post-test and want to take the student on a different path. Okay, so the general one, where we change the name and the scheduling, and then the gradebook general settings, that's our next piece. And then I have them click done. And of course, I'm going around the room, when we're doing this, and I'm making sure that everybody is understanding this, and I feel like I'm throwing information at you guys, but in a training situation, this goes at a much slower pace. So you can keep that in mind as you develop your own documents. Okay, so since we clicked that traditional, so we gave our course start and end dates, now we have this schedule tab. If we had clicked that continuous, that schedule tab would not be there. So let's take a look at the grading categories. I always give them an opportunity to sort of build their own, so they might put in tests, and these are just building the categories at this point, and then they can adjust the points and the weighted. You can use weighted categories here. So I have them build some categories, and then I show them how to drag items into those categories. And so then if you'll remember, Jenica, and I can show you again, but Jenica had assignments in those categories. So this is really a display thing for the student's gradebook and an organizational feature for teachers. So we have them build some categories and then move some assignments in and out. teachers have to spend some time playing around with these numbers to make sure that they reflect exactly what they want. That's not something that we cover in the training generally, but will help teachers if they, when they get to that point, when they want to set that up. So across the top, you can display the first quarter, second quarter. So this is that global setting that I just pointed out a minute ago that I always have them change to first quarter or second quarter. And so then it does a big grouping for them. You can show the categories only, and this is what you would get for a display. And once you click off of that and click on lesson details, then you can see the individual assignments that are tied to that grade book. You can also add assignments from this. You can edit, delete, and you can preview. The cursor, when you roll over that, will give you the objectives that information or that assignment or quiz is aligned to. You can see the objectives down below, and then it gives you the location of where that is in the grade book. So there's some things.
I have a question, Teresa.
Sure.
Teresa, I have a question.
Sure.
So I assume that you have to create these quizzes in, like, let's see here, quiz 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are created first in the course outline, and then once they're there, and then we arrange them here in the main categories area.
Yes, you can drop and drag them to different places. But yes, what you're seeing in that display is this right here. You're seeing that template and those assignments, anything that's been created that would fit in that grade book, you're seeing those from this display. So once I go into,
Okay, all right.
Yep, those are all, so those have all been built, that's correct.
Got it, thank you.
Yep. So those are the building the categories, and again, I have the teachers practice that. I have them imagine some categories they would have, and then we always go back in too and have them move these around after they've created content too. Okay, so to the scheduling tab, I personally like to build the due dates when I build the content. I personally don't like to use this calendar, and I think teachers that I train, I think when I show them the difference, I think that they like creating it just as they go along. But they can make changes, you know, if something comes up and they have to move a test because of a football game or whatever, you know, they can move things. But I like to actually set those due dates when I'm creating the content. So you can drag these in if you want. Excuse me. Now you can look at two views. You can look at the month view, which we're viewing now, or you can look at the list view, and then you can do due dates from that way as well. So you click on that and you can create your due date. It just seems to me like a lot of steps that you can do when you're building the assignment. And for the most part, when teachers are building content, they have an idea of when that content would be due. They know if it's going to be 2 weeks for the assignment or 2 days, or and they can always go back in and fine tune. So that's the list view. This is the month view. And here, when you click on due date, you can restrict the due date by the student access. Like you can put an assignment in there and say, I don't want the students to access this until next Monday. So you can make that setting. And you can also make it so that the scores, for example, on a test, you don't want the scores on a test to be visible to students until after everyone's taken the test, or after you've graded everybody's stuff and given feedback or whatever. And so you can make some restrictions here with this due date. And I've never used that. I've never used that feature, but I know teachers have who didn't want the test scores to be out until everybody had taken the test. So, okay, so course outline, our grading categories, our scheduling. So let's see if I want to take you into, let's go into our enroll copy. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing too is once you start developing your own documents and what you want to show teachers in your trainings, and even if you use ours as a guideline, the best way to do this is just to get in and start playing with this. Start creating some content, mess with the due dates, mess with the settings, and I'll show you those settings today. But it's really better, you know, when you have an opportunity to get in there and play yourself. So, okay, so I'm going to go up to my enroll copy. So I've been in my master, and I continually point that out. Notice that we're working in our master, and we talk about the changes and changes trickling down, and you know, so I spend a lot of time reiterating that concept of the naming. And so I'm going to move back to the courses that I'm enrolled in as a teacher from that dashboard, and I want to get into my enroll copy. We have them open their enroll copy, and we do some practice students. We have them go in and enroll some practice students in their grade book from their domain, and then we show them the proxy feature. And the proxy feature is to allow a teacher to troubleshoot or see a student's page from logged in as that student. The tricky thing when you're training different school districts is to make sure that when you demonstrate it, that you put as a precursor, that you put the domain that you were created in, or that you are existing in. So in this case, I was created in the blended, and I just want to see a demo student view. I might have to do that for my master view too. But I put blended in front of mine. In a school district in Idaho, we would put ISD 242/ because that's what that teacher was enrolled in. And we put that's on that teacher quick guide under the proxy, so we walk them through how to do that. But I do demonstrate this, and I make them practice logging in as one of their students. So now I'm seeing this student's page. Once again, we have our student view. We have the courses that student is enrolled in, and then we have announcements for that course. And then to unproxy, to get back out and get back in as me, I just click unproxy, and it takes me back to my teacher page. So that's the next thing that I practice with them as we start into their enroll copy, and putting people in their grade book and telling them they have demo students and so forth. Okay, so oops, gotta go down here, sorry. So I'm in my enroll copy. Sure.
Another quick question, Teresa, sorry.
Sure, no.
Do you rely on Michael to create, or the domain admins to create the enroll copies, or is it something that teachers do, or how do you generally explain that process to your teachers?
For a teacher, when I'm doing a training, I tell them that I have trained somebody in their district. I've trained a domain admin, and that person is the person who will make all of their course copies for them. Teachers won't have those admin privileges, so they won't be able to make their own course copies. What has happened in the last year is that we have some domain admins who are super busy, have a lot of roles, a lot of hats they have to wear. So this is something we've learned to implement in our domain training, or domain admin training, that I end up making a lot of the course copies. Nikki doesn't have that kind of time really. Sometimes Michael will do it, but we end up doing a lot of course copies just because domain admin either can't be reached because of all of their roles in the district, or it's been a while and they can't remember, so they'll call me for help. But I do tell teachers that somebody in their district is trained to do that, and they have to contact them first. Otherwise, they come to me. Okay, so, you bet. So now we're in the enroll copy, and I point out to them that we're in the enroll copy. And I tell them now, I point out that now they have, since they're the teacher, they'll have the ability to communicate So they have some other roles in here that they didn't have as a course developer. And then of course we talk about changes, curricular changes that you make in the master copy that trickle down, and we talk about breaking links, taking items out of your enroll copy that might be linked to that master copy. So I can't swear that it always sinks in, but we do spend a lot of time explaining that. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that if somebody was going to say, does it work? So I take them into their grade book in their enroll copy, and we have them add a student, just like I showed you from Mr. Webster's. And so we have people already enrolled in their domain, so they can either leave it blank and click find, or they can type in a student name. From this screen, the teacher can also create a new student, but that student needs to be in their domain. But usually we just have them click find, and then this is from a school district who's using this, so I'll pick somebody I know graduated. Hang on a second here.
So I'm sorry, I missed this. So you can, from the, can you enroll somebody else from a different domain?
Yes, because once you put in that name, then it asks you to search all domains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to add this student, and once I've highlighted him, then notice on the right hand side it gives that selected student and it puts that username in, and in this case it gave him an external ID, but I'm going to go ahead and enroll him. So teachers do this, and they enroll 3 or 4 people in their course copy, and then at the end I have them go back in and take those out, because what happens is if they have enrolled some teachers in their own course copy, then those teachers will now see that populate on their dashboard. So I do have them remove that, and that's in our the skeleton training guide that I use to remind myself to take them out. So now the
Do you find that there's very much of pulling students across domains?
No, I don't know that happens. I'm trying to think of a school district up north here. We've moved away from doing multiple, we've moved away from doing subdomains. So, yeah, there'd have to.
And you moved away from doing subdomains at what level of detail? Was it like building level or district level, or?
We used to create one for the district, a main domain for the district, and a subdomain for any high schools that were in that district. And it has become easier from Michael's standpoint, apparently, to just put them all in one domain. And I think that was a training issue. I think that was the domain admins were so confused about, where the masters live and where to put the students for this school and that school. And I think Nikki and Michael just said, we're going to just start building main domains and not use subdomains. So I only have one district up north who has a subdomain, and the rest of them all live in the same domain, which is handy from my perspective, because it's easier to search and you don't have to try to guess, which teacher's in which domain, and it's easier from a management standpoint.
Yeah. Peter, have you talked with Michael about that trade-off in any of the other discussions?
Yeah, we actually had that conversation in the technical training.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right, good enough.
Okay. So once we have them add their students, I just do a quick review and I say, okay, now remember these icons, and I take them through the icons. This is the quiz, this is the assignment, the discussion board. I just let them see their grade book again. And then I take them through how they can drop students as well. So I take them through this part that I showed you on the demo. So now they've seen this twice. and I let them choose some of their own. So now they're in their grade book and they're setting this up for real, or but they're practicing. So we take them through the display options again for the footers, the headers, the grading period. We add a student, they can drop a student. So I take them through that grade book. Now I take them into their edit course view. So this takes them back to their course template. And we go to this group setup. So we've already gone through the categories here. I take them to the group setup. And the group setup, the easiest way I think to explain that is to create an umbrella group. So I put a group set like, sophomores or first hour or something that I can generate some groups within. So I know that in second hour I want 2 groups, and this is what I'm going to be looking at here. So I want 2 groups, and it's going to divide this. It will do the math for me. Or I can click the approximate number of groups and they can get it close for me as well. But I'll just click the number of groups. On the group assignment over here, you can choose random. You can do round robin, which will just pull kids out and you can move them around. It will do alphabetical. So here are some options, but I usually just do random, and then I generate a group. And so now it has divided those students, because it did the math, it divided those students into 2 groups. Now you can click on that and you can rename that group, and you can put like your IEP students. And you can rename this and say, high honors. You can move these students from group to group just by clicking. Oh, you click, whoops, sorry. And so you just click next to it and it moves that student back and forth. So it will generate these groups for you. And once you click OK, so they've created this little group of students. And from that, we start the conversation about how to build content, and you can differentiate. One way of differentiating is by grouping. So we go into Edit Course. I was looking away from my computer. So we're in the Edit Course view, and we're in the course outline, and now we start building some content. So I think we had one down here for you. So let's go into this where I'm just going to build an assignment here, and I'm just going to put grouping. I demonstrate this very slowly. I walk them through. I make sure that they're typing things at the exact same time that I am. In my trainings, I don't have them going all different directions. I just try to keep them really focused so that everybody's on the same page. And so I have them type almost exactly what I type up there, and then they can go back and use that for a model. So I tell them to add a header. And now, up in the upper right-hand corner, since this is going to be a graded assignment, and we know that it is because it has these grade book settings, we can choose from these options. Now I can click on that, and now I can do these settings, and only my second hour IEP kids will have that assignment that has these particular settings. For example, if I wanted to say for this assignment they only needed to read 1 paragraph instead of the 5 paragraphs that I wanted my high honors kids, then I put that in here. And then I can change the date. I can give them more time if I want to. I can allow for late submissions. I can use a different grade for them. So I can change some of these options on the right hand side that will only be applied to that student group. And then when I click done, when they log in, since that student is in that group, they get that assignment. So that's one way to differentiate. So you can differentiate by grouping. And on our second year, we talk about differentiation with creating separate paths, and I can show you that right quick too. But this is one way to show that you can group students. Another way to do that is for discussion boards, and that's kind of a handy way to use the tool, is to make a discussion board, and you can apply the settings for that discussion board to specific groups. So I let them practice with that a little bit, and then they can actually log in as one of those students. For example, if they did demo student 1, they could go in, proxy as demo student 1, and they would see that assignment. So we teach them that grouping differentiation from that group setup tab in our day 2 training.
Question?
Sure.
So in the assignment that you just modified, and you assigned to that IEP group, so if I wanted another group assignment for a different group, would I have to make another group assignment?
You change that assignment. Let me show you. You change that assignment and then change the group. So you have that setting for that group, and then if you wanted to make that, you can change that 1 paragraph to 5 paragraphs and apply that to your high honors kids, and that's what they would see.
So the text would be, if you type here a different text, it would be different.
Right. Michael also showed me a way to do that where you I'm trying to think how he where you did it like by the negative. I'm not going to demonstrate that. I'll ask him about that, but he showed me another way to do that, to apply those settings to different groups. But this is the one that we use most commonly. Let me write a little note here.
Did you copy it?
No.
Because, so if I had 2 groups, when I need, so if I was a student in the IEP group, I would only see the IEP assignment. If I was a student in the high honors group, I'd only see that assignment. Wouldn't you have to have 2 of the assignments, one designated for group 1 and one designated for group 2?
No, that's what I asked. You do it through here, unless you wanted to specifically.
Interesting.
So Teresa, can you open up?
Can you open that up again, Teresa?
Sure.
Open up
Sure.
this one more time.
So if I type in here, read a paragraph,
Yeah.
and I want that setting to go to my second hour IEP kids, if I can go back in as a second hour IEP kid, and let's see if I can go in as Angela. I should be able to proxy as Angela. How come that didn't work? I should be able to proxy as Angela and go into that course and see, because I clicked on that and assigned it to her name. I don't know why that didn't work. She would see that. But then when you go into, let me think here. Then when you go into that assignment and you change, it changes it right there on the page for you, so you can assign it to another group. Let me demonstrate that here. Maybe. I wonder why that didn't let me proxy. Am I in blended? Yeah. Oh, I know why, because she's in a live school district. So in order to proxy as that lady, I would have had to go in the St. Mary's school district. That's why that didn't work. She's not in our blended domain. She's in a school district. So let me go back in here. Oh, whoops. I want to show you the pathing, the differentiated pathing too. It takes a little bit longer to set up, but this is the easiest way. The grouping is the easiest way to differentiate, but the pathing is really neat because they can test out of stuff. Yeah, that should have been it. If you want to try that out when you do that in your own domain, just in your group, you create your groups like I did, and then just proxy as a student in that domain, and it will come up as it will come up with that assignment. Let me see if I can find this again. So when I say
the students in the other group would still see the same assignment, but a different version of the assignment.
They'll
They wouldn't see that assignment at all.
well, you can restrict it and make it so they don't see the assignment at all, or you can differentiate and read. So this says read a paragraph. So this is what I have for my IEP kids, and then if I want to read 5 paragraphs, oops, and I want that for my high honor kids. Did you see how that took that away? Did you see how it changed?
Because now we're applying the setting to high honors.
Right.
So you put in your 10 or 50 paragraphs, whatever.
Right.
They all see the same assignment, or they can all see the same assignment, but they're seeing different versions of
Right.
the same assignment.
Right. And so then when I click done, if I logged in as one of my high honors kids, then I would see this assignment because I just set that group setting. So now when I click preview, this should say 5 paragraphs. Oh, well, it was supposed to say 5 paragraphs.
I think
Oh, it's
the
because
other one,
I didn't.
generic was the all.
Yeah, and because I didn't log in as I have to log in as a student from that group. I have to proxy
I
in.
think
Yes, the general settings is what Peter's saying is a paragraph. The IEP, yeah.
Right.
So for all students.
And then when I change that, then it goes to that group.
Assign students to the IEP. I get it.
Let me just show you right quick. What are we at? We got about 15 minutes left. Let me show you the mastery differentiation. And I won't take you all the way through this, but I'll show you how this works and how you can build your own. And Nikki actually said that we can give you this, but there's also a video in here that shows in that Blended Learning 101. If you click on Blended Learning and go down to the very bottom under Resources, it says Formative Assessment, and it will show you this same thing. So you're building these pathways, and we just made it really easy with our colors, but excuse me. So we build a pretest, and in the pretest, we tell them, I'll just go into the advanced edit here. In the pretest, we tell them that they can, we set it so that they have to get a certain number of questions correct out of, we set that threshold, we set that objective threshold, and they have to get a certain numbers of questions right out of that red group in order to be exempted from that red content. Or they have to get a certain number of objectives correct, a number of questions correct, and then they can test out of this one. So when we set this up, we build this test just as an example, and then we have teachers log in as a student. We set that up in our domain, and we can show you how to do that. But then the teachers log in, they'll log in as like student number 1, and they'll take this test. And they'll take this test, and we tell them you need to get at least one, or at least 3 questions right out of one color. And what happens is once they go in and they take that test, then these will disappear from the content that they're excused from. So let's say they get all of the questions right in the red and they test out of that, they meet that objective that we set, then this red goes gray and it just leaves 2 other paths for them to complete. And they get a little message on there and it'll say, you have tested out of this content, and you can click up here on the content from the student view. You can see what they tested out of. But we started demonstrating this in our second year for our schools who were in their second year. But if it's something that you want to incorporate earlier, it's an awesome tool for differentiation. So they take this, we tell them this is the test, and in the demo we tell them that they need to get all of one color right and miss at least one of another color. And then these gray out, they disappear once they get all those right. So Brain Honey just moves them into that path once they meet those objectives that we set in there. And you can see kind of that's kind of a higher level of thinking for teachers who are just developing content, but we do have a lot of teachers who are using that with a lot of success. So that differentiation, the grouping differentiation, and then the mastery, the pre-test differentiation, great ways to let students work on their own path at their own pace.
What if you wouldn't mind another question? What happens to the grade book when you test out of an objective? Are you exempt or do you get credit?
You know what? Let me think about that.
Okay.
Let me think about
Is
that.
it a rule that you can set?
Yeah, let me think. I'm trying to picture Nick's class, how that. I think that he sent the teacher I'm thinking of, I think he set a percentage in there. And I'd have to go in and look at the settings, but it seems to me that he set that if you answer this number of objectives, it's a 94% or something like that. And I don't know how he or if that was arbitrary or if that was something that he was able to defend, but it seems to me that he put that percentage in the grade book. But that might be a good question to ask Michael, if you can set a rule for exemption. It just seemed to me that when we met with Nick, the teacher that I'm thinking of, it just seemed to me that he put in a percentage so that it averaged.
Okay.
That didn't answer your question, but that's all I can think of for what we've done with that.
Thank you. Well, because I think it's going to, like you're kind of alluding to, I think every teacher, every school district, every content area is going to have a different idea of what it needs to test out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So
And
my God, is that it's probably a rule you set.
that it's a what?
A rule that you would set, or
Oh,
have the
okay.
ability to set. I hope.
Well, you have to. I would be surprised if you couldn't set it as a rule. You so many variables.
I was going to see if Michael's on chat. Let me look right quick. He might be gone this afternoon, but let me see. No, he's there. Okay.
So in a high school math lesson, you probably want the kids to be exempt. No suggesting.
So then,
But in elementary, that one gets credit.
Right.
yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but it just seemed to me that Nick put in a percentage, that he assigned a percentage, but I'm going to see if Michael will chat back to me right quick. While we're waiting for him.
Okay, we can.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's good to explore that ahead of time. And let me, I'll just move on and then wait and see if I hear back from him. So the last little piece that we show them, aside from, building some content, we did that a little bit yesterday. I take them through and we let them build or click on the icons. We let them practice with the headers. We let them practice with the assignment settings. And I do we do a lot of what ifs in the assignment settings there. So just, I guess be prepared for that sort of thing. Well, what if I want this to display, or I want my students to do this? And so that's when you're kind of getting into some of the deeper stuff with Brain Honey. But I think it's really valuable for teachers to be able to sit down with them and say, okay, what do you want this to look like? And then show them how Brain Honey can help them accomplish that. I think that that's a fun part of this. So this is an assessment, and we build the assessment and we talk about two things. We talk about the properties of the test itself and doing the settings for the test. And then we talk about building the questions. So there's two different ways that we can build the questions. Oh shoot, I picked one that was already in advanced mode. I'm going to back up so that I can do this in order. When we have them build a test, we show them the basic edit mode first, and so I'll just go. We show them the basic steps first, and that's to add the questions through this format one at a time, and they can choose multiple choice. So we let them do the multiple choice, we let them do a short answer, they type a question, and I ask them to build 4 different questions, and then they have to, I don't even know what day it is. That's kind of funny. I don't.
No, hope I don't take this stuff tomorrow. I know.
You need to add a calendar reminder on what day it is.
You can change. Well, I know I'm supposed to meet with the University at Idaho at 2 o'clock, so it must be Friday because they wouldn't make me meet on. They wouldn't make me meet on a Saturday. I'm at a family reunion. Isn't it supposed to be Saturday? So you can change the point value up here and across the top, and we don't have them do much with properties unless they want to add something with the math expression, or there's another thing in there too about randomizing questions and things like that. So we tell them how to look at the preview and preview for that question, but we take them just through this process one question at a time, and they click add, and then we show how it populates over here, and we talk about aligning objectives for those specific questions and how you can move those in the test. Maybe, there we go. And so I give them an opportunity to type some questions. Then what Nikki has me do is to show them the opportunity for question banks. And so these are linked to question banks from in that course. And you can also get question banks that are linked to other teachers' courses through subscriptions, so you can have teachers who are sharing assessments. And so I just show them that question bank opportunity, and then they can use more banks. But then I tell them about the advanced edit mode. And once they're in the advanced edit mode, they can't go back and edit in the basic mode, but it's in the advanced edit mode where they can bring in some tests that they've already built, and I have them print out, Nikki has me have them print out the help guide for advanced edit, and we tell teachers, I mean, we don't even build in it that day, we just tell them that it's there, and this is where they can do some volume test creating, and they're following this exact format, so they can you could copy and paste things from Word in there and then make them fit this exact format and build their test in the advanced edit mode. In the advanced edit, then you can do some other types of tests, like some more extensive fill in the blank or a closed passage, for example, for reading. And then down here you'll see a whole bunch of options for how to display the question. You can do the math stuff in there. This is where I have them line up objectives. They'll type in a test question, and then they click on the objective, and they can click on it and it moves over here to the right. So there's a lot of features in the advanced edit mode that again we don't do in our day 2 training. We show them that it's there, and then if they want help, then we set time up with them. And I have spent extensive time with teachers in this, but then once they start doing it and they get the hang of it, of putting that information in and tying it in with other question banks, especially as they near the end of the school year, you know, they can build their whole final exam by tying in with question banks from somewhere else in their class as that accumulates through the year. And so then they have a real easy time of building that end of the course assessment. I tell them about the time intense part of this, about loading a test. They can bring them in from ExamView Pro. I've never used ExamView Pro. Sometimes Michael helps people bring it in. I think you have to convert it, like maybe WebCT, and bring it in that way. But I know that is an option to import them, and that's this button up here. And again, I don't use this because I'm not in the public school classroom, so I haven't built those assessments. But anyway, we take them through this and we just tell them that this is at a level that's a little bit more technical. So if they are feeling really, you know, adventurous technologically, then they can attempt this. Otherwise, they can build until they get comfortable in their regular mode. So they have these tests. The very last thing that we do is to drag in drag in objectives at the content level, and we just show them that it's a click and drag thing. I already have objectives aligned to that one, but if I want to bring this into the modular level, and then I want to assign it to the item level, then when I hover over that item, it will reflect that objective that I just brought in. So that's usually the last step of the content creation. And then we just point out the communicate button, how they can send emails to kids in their courses or people who are listed in their domain with an email address, and how to post an announcement through the communicate button. And they can also look at new posts in a discussion board, but we have them create an announcement and play around with that a little bit. But that's the last thing of that's the last piece of our day 2 training. Okay, are you still, now do you want me to play the Dizzy song again?
You know, one thing I started to think about and we'll stop those is, you know, in terms of a training strategy and kind of helping to keep teachers, you know, kind of help the cognitive load a little bit is, I start to see the differences between like an instructional strategy where you think about the things that you want to do at a lesson level, you know, you're getting your content and thinking about your instructional strategy in your classroom. And then thinking about course management strategy in terms of the different groups, differentiation, tab, you know, that's kind of management strategy. So then the tools that you're showing us as it relates to kind of course management became a little different, but I could kind of track what's going on and kind of understand what you were doing, the context there, versus an assessment strategy, basically what you showed us here. So all those strategies and all those activities work together in the daily classroom situation. You've got instruction, obviously, you've got some kind of assessment going on, and you've got some kind of classroom management, whether it's for groups of people, groups of students, individual students, the whole class.
Right.
So for me, I'm starting to think, I wonder if that's a way to help me, you know, if I'm doing training, kind of keep my back straight, but also help teachers understand what's actually happening within the course, you know, course of their day.
Right.
You know, as in the classroom. It's not just teaching. There are different things that are going on. So I just wrote that down as a note myself.
Well, and I think that that's a great opportunity to point out to a teacher how much an LMS can help them. Wouldn't you agree? That
Absolutely.
some of those
Yeah.
management things, for example, teachers who give a quiz and then they have that feedback immediately, they can look at that. They can look at that quiz right there on the computer and say, "Wow, you didn't get the first 3 questions right at all." And there's bam, there's an opportunity to pull that student, do some direct instruction, one-on-one instruction with that student, and the other kids are still engaged. They're still working at their own, at their own thing. And so the value of using an LMS to put this in and to let them help, let the LMS help them, and then also to look at the blended models, the different ways that this can look in a classroom. And we do spend some time on in an intro presentation with them talking about blended models. And I do more so with one-on-one teachers saying, okay, well, how many, they say, I really want to do this, but I only have one computer. Well, okay, so let's look how we can set up stations and how you can rotate through that and build a digital agenda, and the kids can work there. I mean, there's just so much to do with blended. And all, teachers are starting to see, the teachers who are really implementing this well are starting to see the mind-boggling potential of what they can do. Okay, so I have 2 questions on here about the rule for exempted that I wasn't sure how anybody other than the one teacher that I worked with, how he managed that. So, and I think Michael just texted me back. So, do you have questions while I'm typing this to Michael, or do you want to talk amongst yourselves, or?
Michael was saying, go for it and not shoot disappointed at you.
Yeah, I can tell him. I'm going to tell him. MVU is watching you. Okay, if I have a teacher who differentiates and a student is it accurate to ask if there's a rule that they want to set for a percentage or just for how it displays?
How display?
Okay, I can probably turn off my Camtasia.